We know that violent arguments between intimate partners is all too common. We also know that these are conditions in which one of the partners can snap and tragedy can happen. What we don't expect in these scenarios is the level of cover-up attempted in today's case. And perhaps even more surprising still, for the one to come out of this unscathed being a very petite woman. We're going to Geneva County in Alabama and to 2024 to look at the disappearance of Benito Guzman. This is Murder of Crows. Slocum is a city in Geneva County, Alabama. It is part of the Dothan, Alabama Metropolitan Statistical Area. And at the 2020 census, the population was just 2,082. The community is named after Postmaster Frank W. Slocum. Slocum incorporated in 1901. Slocum calls itself, among other things, the home of the tomato. Slocum High School mascot is the Red Top. Slocum offers a great community for residents and visitors alike. Yes, I took this from the official website. Whether you're looking for a fun place for children to play or a senior activity, from Slocum Recreation Park to our Slocum Tomato Festival, the Slocum Tomato Festival Jamboree is the biggest and one of the best in the region, held each year on the third weekend of June. The celebration is held at the peak of tomato season, and different types and varieties can be purchased at the festival. The most popular being, I know you can't wait, the most popular being the Globe tomatoes, a mecca of southern goodness in eastern Geneva County. Slocum is known for growing the best tomatoes in the country. Well, fuck me. Quite a claim to fame. A quaint, candid farming town, Slocum is proud of the hard work and row crops produced by area farmers. But it's not just tomatoes that have made this sleepy place notable. Another notable occurrence occurred just a year ago in 2024. When a man from Alabama called the police to report that his 41-year-old co-worker, Benito Morales Guzman, had stopped coming to work and wasn't answering his phone, no one could have predicted the horror waiting behind the simple welfare check that was to follow. Officers from Geneva County arrived at Guzman's home, expecting to find a routine case of disappearance or illness, as they do 99% of the time. Instead, they were greeted by his 26-year-old girlfriend, Joselina Elizabeth Lopez, and the couple's 4-year-old son. But within this scenario, it didn't take long for investigators to smell something. A smell known all too well to police officers that had been on the job for a while. The so-called smell of death. A smell so recognizable for those who have experienced it before. The distinctive odor of a decomposing human body. What they uncovered next would shock even the most seasoned of investigators. So, guided by their noses on the odor, police followed the smell to one of the vehicles parked near the house. Inside the trunk, they discovered several black garbage bags, cleaning supplies, knives, and a chainsaw smeared with blood and fragments of human flesh. When investigators opened the bags, they found dismembered human remains. DNA testing would confirm the worst. The body belonged to Benito Guzman, the very man that had been reported as missing. The sheer brutality of the crime scene, a scene previously occupied only by a petite young woman and her toddler child, was beyond distressing. Guzman appeared to have been stabbed multiple times before being decapitated with a chainsaw and cut into smaller pieces. The tools of his destruction lay beside his remains, a grim testament to the horror that had unfolded inside the home he shared with Lopez and their young child. When questioned, Joselina Lopez told investigators that she had killed Guzman in self-defense. She did. According to her statement, an argument escalated and she lashed out in fear for her life. But detectives quickly began to doubt her story. There were no visible injuries on Lopez that would indicate a violent struggle. The sheer degree of post-mortem mutilation, the dismemberment, the cleaning supplies, the careful concealment, well, all of that suggested not panic, but cold calculation. One would imagine that lashing out in self-defense would be followed by a fearful call to the authorities. But that call had never come. And a further thought alarmed investigators. The investigators had come to believe that the couple's 4-year-old son may have been present during both the killing and the following dismemberment. That possibility turned an already unthinkable act into a haunting nightmare of psychological trauma. The Geneva County Sheriff's Office described the discovery as one of the most disturbing crimes they had ever encountered. The chainsaw, the garbage bags, the overwhelming stench of death. It all painted a picture not just of violence, but of something extremely methodical and cold. Neighbors told reporters later that Guzman had been a quiet, hard-working man who often kept to himself. Lopez, they said, seemed normal, a young mother often seen walking with her child. No one suspected the darkness brewing behind their door. As the investigation continues, prosecutors are working to build their case against Lopez, who is being held on charges of murder and abuse of a corpse. Forensic experts are still analysing the crime scene. But what's already known is enough to ensure that this case will linger in Alabama's collective memory for years. True crime cases often begin with something ordinary: a missing person, a domestic dispute, a neighbor's concern. What makes them unforgettable is how quickly the line between love and horror can dissolve, and one would morph into the other. In this case, a relationship that once produced a child and a shared home ended in a slaughter that defies comprehension. The contrast is understandably jarring. A young woman, a small child, and a chainsaw soaked in blood. Whether Joselina Lopez's story of self-defense will hold up in court remains to be seen. But one fact is certain. The home that once housed a family has now become a symbol of the escalation of domestic violence, but one combined with planning. And had the welfare check not come when it did, could have led to a crime further hidden and further covered up, further muddying the waters of a savage death, presumably at the hands of a woman whose size must have belied a rage so massive that it dwarfed her stature. On April the 10th, 2025, Joselina Elizabeth Lopez was indicted by a Geneva County grand jury on, as I said, charges of murder and corpse abuse. And this is according to the Geneva County District Attorney. The corpse abuse charge was at that time a new charge added by the grand jury after they were presented with the facts of the case. And indeed, who can blame them, since you got a man chopped into bits next to a chainsaw? According to investigators, after finding the body, officers began searching the home and discovered a pistol, a hatchet, 2 knives, 2 other chainsaws, and various receipts showing Lopez had purchased tools. Chainsaw marks were found on the floor of the home. and it is now believed that Guzman was shot around 5 times before being dismembered, so not stabbed as was initially thought. They also found blood on a box of baby formula inside a diaper bag, or a nappy bag as we would say, and this is according to court records. What makes the case and the thought that the child may have witnessed some or all of the crimes worse is the fact that the child is suspected to have autism as well as other unspecified disabilities. Fuck me. What a horrific, horrific thing. Lopez is being held in the Geneva County Jail with no bond, Cal surprise, and a trial date is yet to be set. In small-town Alabama, and indeed further afield given the profile of the case is still on the lips of many. People wondering what could drive a young mother to such a grotesque act. Was it fear, madness, or something darker, an eruption of rage that no one saw coming? Whatever the reasons, a man was brutally killed, then his remains treated with such indignity in an attempt to hide what had happened. The fact that the remains were found how they were, with the instrument of dismemberment just next to the body parts, with blood and flesh still clinging to the blades, further changing this gardening tool into the grotesque symbol of horror that it has been already transformed into by films and fiction. For investigators, justice will be measured not only by what happens in court, but by uncovering the truth of what really happened inside that house. For the rest of us, the story serves as a chilling reminder of how fragile the boundary can be between everyday life and unspeakable horror.
From your hometown news leader, News 4 begins with breaking news.
A Geneva County woman is charged with murder, and we're told by investigators she beheaded a man with whom she had been involved with. News 4's McKenna Nobles live in our newsroom. And McKenna, this is a really bizarre story, isn't it?
Yeah, Kinsley, it is. Just 3 days after Benito Guzman's body was found in a car behind a Fayette, Alabama home, his girlfriend faces murder charges. Court records show that investigators jailed 26-year-old Jocelina Lopez this morning and charged her with Guzman's death. Sources tell us Guzman, with whom she had apparently been romantically involved, had been beheaded and other body parts removed with a chainsaw. Geneva County Sheriff Tony Helms said an official statement will be released from the State Bureau of Investigation. Authorities jailed Lopez without bond, with a hearing set next week to determine if a judge will grant her bond. Now, what was not immediately clear was when Guzman died, if he had passed before his beheading and other body parts were cut off. Sheriff Helms praised SBI for their assistance and referred other questions to the agency.
McKenna Nobles, that is a very bizarre case. Thanks so much.
A Geneva County woman is behind bars accused of dismembering a man who was found dead in his car with a chainsaw. The body of Benito Guzman was discovered near a Geneva County home on Tuesday. Now they say that 26-year-old Joselina Lopez beheaded her alleged lover, Guzman, and left his dismembered body in the car.
And they believe the crime happened sometime between Saturday and Tuesday morning. WDHN's Robert Smith Jr. joins us live in the newsroom with the latest on this gruesome crime, Rob.
Yeah, hey, Mike and Jess, the Geneva County Sheriff's Office has arrested Joselina Elizabeth Lopez in the death of Benito Morales Guzman. County Sheriff's Office has charged Joselina Elizabeth Lopez with a brutal murder in the death of Benito Morales Guzman. Close friends of Guzman says it's been hard to wrap their heads around the news the last few days.
Shocked, I guess. That's the best way to put it. Hurt like home, you know. I just saw him here last Friday.
Sources say Lopez, who Guzman had been in a romantic relationship with, say she used a chainsaw to cut off his head. Guzman's body was found dismembered in a car in the driveway of his house on Grady Garner Road and New Henson Road in the Fayette area Tuesday morning. He had been missing since Saturday after leaving from Martin's stepdad's house. Law enforcement officials believe the gruesome murder happened between those days.
It's hard to imagine and think of someone that I hold with true value, of someone that I've looked up to for a good bit of my life, and seeing how mistreated, you know, them finding his body in the car, and for whoever knows how long. And it's hard to imagine and think of. And
Guzman was a friend of Martin's stepdad for over 20 years. In fact, Guzman was renting the house from him, where he would normally keep his tools. Guzman was a handyman who worked with Mr. Granite, a countertop installation service in Graceville, Florida. He served the community for at least 5 years and was very helpful.
Benito was a good and honest man. There wasn't a thing that he couldn't help fix. If we needed him, he was always there. A great cook, loved cooking. If we ever had a barbecue, he was always one cooking. He was also big on his team. He loved Auburn. Always wore his Auburn hat every single day, or he had an Auburn shirt on.
He leaves behind a young daughter. Lopez is in the Geneva County Jail with no bond. The Geneva County Sheriff's Office is expected to release more information later. We'll continue to follow this case, and we'll let you know if any new developments on air and online. We're live in the newsroom tonight. Robert Smith, WDHN News for the Wiregrass.
This Slocum woman accused of brutally murdering her boyfriend and decapitating him killed him in self-defense. 26-year-old Joselina Elizabeth Lopez claims she acted in self-defense, and court testimony revealed one of her minor children may have witnessed the incident. Lopez appeared at a brief hearing this afternoon, and now a Geneva County judge is deciding whether to grant her bond. Officers say they found Benito Guzman's body with his head missing last week.
And that was yet another case of rage going unchecked. But the perpetrator of this crime, allegedly, turns stereotypes on their head, as her petite frame, as well as being by all accounts a loving mother, being so completely at odds with the violent nature of the crime and the grisly manner of the dismemberment. Domestic violence is unacceptable. And whether this was a case of a straw breaking the camel's back, and then that camel developing a plan to account for the disparity in the sizes of the partners, or something more sinister and insidious, remains to be seen. And indeed, we may never know the truth behind the violence. But a man still died, and it was a senseless death when there must have been other ways for this situation to be resolved. I appreciate that emotions can cloud otherwise rational minds, and that desperate times can indeed sometimes call for desperate measures. But the level of violence seen here beggars belief. If Lopez was genuinely in fear and acted out of self-defense, she could have shot Guzman and then called the police and allowed them to sort things out from there. But the fact that she went further to dismember his body and then place it in the car, presumably to be taken and disposed of later, suggests a desire for the act not to have been found out at all. And this in turn suggests a planned killing. The truth of the situation may come out in legal proceedings. But for now, we have to consider the father that was brutally murdered. He may have been a violent partner. We just don't know at this stage, and indeed we may never know. But the nature of the murder and the treatment of his remains just does not feel proportional. With the limited information we have currently, I will dedicate this episode to the man whose remains were treated with such disdain. I send love to all of those touched by this ongoing tragedy, especially the disabled child, who has now lost both parents, and I can only hope is being loved and supported through a frightening and traumatic time. Thank you for watching another episode of Murder of Crows. I am so grateful to all of those who take the time to watch my content, and heartily invite you to join the incredible Crow community, where we have online chats and support each other in just about every way. To start that journey, just hit subscribe. Leave a comment or a like, or preferably both. And then come and join us for a live premiere. And join in the live chat where you can come and meet the wonderful people I am so lucky to have supporting what I do. But with that said, I'm Steve. This orange doorstop is Samson, and we'll see you when we see you.
Say that you're ready, but you won't like it. You say that